Hello everyone, welcome. Today I thought I'd introduce our lesson for this week, which is on selections, or also called decisions, or if statements as they appear in the Java language. Now we will talk a little bit about writing conditions. A condition is an expression that resolves to a Boolean value. A Boolean value in Java is true or false. Unlike some other languages, Java does not assign a numeric equivalent or synonym or anything like that to true and false. It's just true and false. I am absolutely certain that every JVM assigns a numeric value to be considered true or false, but I have yet to figure out how to determine what a particular JVM is really assigning to that. So we'll be talking a little bit about conditions, a little bit about logical operators, and then if statements. I'll talk some about nesting. That always seems to be a question. I'm not going to try to go over the entire chapter or anything like that. That's why we have the book, but I thought I would give some sort of second opinion on the material. Now, decisions or selections or if statements, depending on what you want to call them, are the second of our three control structures. The first control structure is so simple that we usually overlook it and don't think about it, and that's called sequence. That says that I can't use something before I've given it a value. For example, some things have to be done in a very precise sequence. If I want to use a variable radius down here, I had better set radius up above in my program. I can't try to use it and then ask the user for what the radius of my circle is after I've used it. So that's sequence, the simplest of the control structures. This is the second control structure, if statements, I'll call them. And the third will be in a couple of weeks. It will be looping or repetition. So this is the second of our control structures. Now, let's get into the syntax of an if statement in Java. And let me share my screen. There. Now the syntax of an if statement in Java is the word if, and I've got my syntax wrong here. I need an open parenthesis, and I need these parentheses. I need that open parenthesis. I need this open parenthesis. Inside these parentheses, I need a condition. A condition is an expression that resolves to a Boolean value. So, for instance, one condition would be true. Perfectly good value, perfectly good condition. It resolves to a Boolean value. Another condition, if I had a int variable I could say I equal 5. And that condition would be true if I was 5 and false otherwise. So a condition is just something that is an expression that evaluates to Boolean value, and inside these parentheses for the if statement, I need to put a condition. Now, the syntax for an if statement has one statement. And by the way, Java doesn't care about spaces. It doesn't care about lines. So, and a semicolon there. So I could write this, and let me get rid of that. Or I could have put it like that. And this can be here, or this can be there. Java, the compiler, doesn't care. My very strong recommendation is let Eclipse do your formatting for you. And I'll try to remember to show that as we get to Eclipse a bit later on. You would be surprised the number of bugs you can find by just letting Eclipse do your formatting for you. Now, one key thing here is that this is one statement right there. So I have an if statement, I have my if and I have my condition, but the condition only controls one statement. Similarly, if I use the if-else form of this, I only get one statement here. So the first question is, what if I need more? And if I need more, in both of these situations, or all three of these situations, I can use what is referred to as a statement block, which are curly braces. Again, the curly braces might be there. They could be down there. Again, let Eclipse do the formatting for you to put in the indentation, and that way if you've made a syntax error, and it's real easy to make a syntax error on this stuff, something won't look right with the indentation, and that'll be the signal to you to go look around and try to figure out what's wrong. So the first question here is, what can I put inside these curly braces? And the answer is pretty much anything. The only real restriction is that things have to nest perfectly. For example, I could put another condition here with more curly braces. And once we get to loops, I could put a loop in here. I'll just put while. And when I say nesting perfectly, the best example I know of that are Russian dolls. So let me see if I can quit sharing. And these are some little Russian dolls we have. These are Soviet dolls, in fact. This one is of Gorbachev. And inside Gorbachev, we have Brezhnev, who was the 60s, early 70s guy. Inside him, we have Khrushchev, who famously banged his shoe on the table at the United Nations, shouting, "We will bury you." Inside him, we have Stalin, and inside Stalin, we have Lenin. Now, this is computer science class. My only point with this is these dolls nest perfectly. They can't overlap, as the Soviet premiers never overlapped. So the same thing is true when we are talking about the nesting inside a statement block like this. So that's one thing people sometimes have trouble quite getting. Now, let me say a few moments about relational operators. And the relational operators are less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and not equal to. I hope I didn't miss any in that. And they will take operands, and I'll show you some examples in just a moment. They will take operands and yield a Boolean value. So if I have int I equal 5 and int j equal 4, I can say Boolean B1 is assigned I greater than j, which is true. 5 is greater than 4, so B1 is assigned the value true. I can say Boolean B2 is equal to j greater than I, and B2 would be assigned the value false because 4 is not greater than I. These are conditions. They are expressions that yield a Boolean value. Now, I can use logical or Boolean operators, same thing, to relate Boolean values. Now, these relational operators typically are used to relate numbers as operands and return a Boolean result. Here, I could say Boolean B3 is equal to B1 or B2. And B1 we said previously was true. B2 we said previously was false. So true or false is true. And so the variable B3 would be assigned the value true. And a different way of writing this would be, this is equivalent to saying B4 is equal to I greater than J or J greater than I. Since the relational operators resolve to a Boolean value. So that's sort of the high level how if statements, the syntax of if statements and what a condition is and how we use relational operators and logical operators. I want to move on now to a bit of a programming exercise for you, and I'll set this up and I want you to stop the video and finish the exercise, and then you can restart the video and we'll go through a solution. This is a favorite school, and the starter code will be in a zip file in the same item that I put this video. This is a program to list what your favorite school is by its colors. So for instance, most schools have two colors. If my two colors are white and light blue, well, my favorite school is probably UNC. If my two colors are white and purple, my favorite school would be Furman. If my favorite school's colors are blue and orange, my favorite school would be Virginia, for example. So I'm going to use nested if statements here. And again, we start out asking the user what the first color is for his or her favorite school. Enter 1 for white, 2 for gold, and 3 for orange. If the user enters 1, I'm going to be processing here. Else, if the user doesn't enter 1, I'm going to process this statement, and this is where I will process if the user enters 2. And I'm making an assumption here. If the user does not enter 1 or 2, I am assuming the user has entered 3, and I can process this for whether or not the user's favorite school is Virginia or Clemson. So let's just talk about this first case here. The user's entered 1, so I know one of the user's favorite colors is white. Then I'm going to ask the user to enter another number for his second color, and he will enter 1 if his favorite color is light blue, 2 for if it's purple, 3 for if it's really unfortunate, or 4 if it's for just unspeakably ugly. And you need to, I would like you to write if statements, and there's several ways it can be done, but the most efficient way is going to be using if-else statements. I want you to write if statements and set the string variable fave school to be UNC if he'd entered 1 for light blue, Furman if he entered 2 for purple, and you can make up some names for those other two numbers. So I want you to stop the video, and we'll come back in a few minutes and talk about a solution. See you in a minute. Hello everyone, welcome back. Hopefully your program is written and works. There's really no substitute for programming yourself. That's one reason we give you so much work in this. So let's look at my solution for this. And this is pretty much straight out of our starter code for choice 1. So one of the colors of my favorite school is white. That's what I'm testing for here. And if one of my colors is white, I'm going to say, well, there are 4 possibilities. If one of my colors is white, my second color might be light blue, it might be purple, it might be red, or it might be dark blue. And so I have a series of if statements. And so if the choice 2 for the user is 1, meaning light blue, my favorite school is UNC. If it was 2, my favorite school is Furman. And yeah, there are a couple of other choices down here that I can't believe any of you guys would make. Now, if my choice was not 1 up here, which means my first color was not white, but it was either gold or orange. If it's gold, then choice 1 here will be 2. And so I want an if statement that says, if it was 1, then my second color is blue, and so my favorite school is Wake Tech. Now I put in an if-else statement here, but if I wanted to assume that if the user did not put in 1, he must have put in 2, I could get rid of this if statement there and just use the else, similar to how I did up here. So this was a choice I made for how to write this particular case. But if the user chooses 2, the second color is black, gold and black, or black and gold is Wake Forest. And again, I'm assuming that if the user's first color was not 1 for white or 2 for gold, he must have put in 3 for orange. Maybe he put in 5, but I'm not checking for that in this particular program. You could make a case that I should, and I should have, well, if it wasn't 3 here, I should print out a nasty message saying I have no idea what you're doing. But going with how I have structured it, if the first color is orange, the second one might be blue or it might be purple. If it's blue, he would put a 1 here, and my favorite school would be Virginia. If it was 2, the favorite school would be Clemson. Now, hopefully you see how these constructs are nesting. and I could use any of these. I could put multiple statements there in any of these statement blocks. That would be just fine. It all works. I could even put loops in any of those statement blocks. I could put, when we get the loops, I could put a loop that contained this whole chunk of code. Again, so long as the nesting is perfect, everything works just fine. Well, so we've looked a little bit at conditions and Boolean values and logical operators and relational operators, and we've done an example using nesting with if statements. I hope this helps. Be sure to send questions. Talk to you later. Bye.